The Grand Convergence was held only once every 50 cycles, in a place where stars bent like gentle arcs and space itself felt quiet. Thousands of species arrived from every corner of the galaxy. Their ships filled the void like floating cities made of light and metal. This was not a war summit or a trade meeting. It was a gathering meant for bonds. For many races, bonding was tradition. For others, it was survival. Alliances were sealed not just with words, but with chosen partners, leaders, warriors, thinkers, who would stand together and shape the future. To leave the convergence alone was seen as failure, or worse, rejection by fate itself. The alien vampire queen arrived alone. Her name was Queen Sarilith of the Verathi. She ruled a people born under dim suns and living worlds where daylight was weak and shadows were long. Her kind fed on bioenergy, not blood as the myths claimed, but the galaxy preferred simpler, darker stories. Red eyes, pale skin, sharp fangs, immortal hunger, monster. Her ship was silent as it docked. Black and deep violet, shaped like a folded wing, it drew attention even before its ramp lowered. Guards of the Convergence stiffened, hands near weapons, though she had broken no law and threatened no one. Sarilith stepped out, tall and graceful, her long cloak trailing behind her. Her eyes glowed softly, not with anger but awareness. She felt every stare, fear, curiosity, desire buried under terror. None of it was new. She had attended the Convergence before. Always as an observer, always leaving alone. Inside the great hall, the air shimmered with energy fields and translation waves. Platforms floated at different heights, each suited for different species. Some were filled with water, others burned with controlled plasma. Some rotated slowly to ease gravity differences. Pairs were forming already, a crystalline being bonded with a silicon-based engineer from another world. Two massive reptilian warlords clasped forearms, sealing a pact that would unite their fleets. A gentle hive-mind envoy split a fragment of itself to join with a partner species, drawing cheers. Sarilith walked through it all, her presence parting the crowd like a shadow passing through light. Respectful distance was kept. No one insulted her. No one mocked her. No one approached her. She took her place on a raised obsidian platform reserved for sovereign rulers. Her throne formed itself from dark matter alloy, responding to her biosignature. She sat with perfect posture, hands resting calmly, face unreadable. Inside, something old and heavy pressed against her chest. Centuries ago, she had stopped expecting anything different. The Convergence reminded her each time. Power could earn fear. Wisdom could earn respect. But companionship required something the galaxy would not give her. Choice without fear. Hours passed. Announcements echoed through the hall as bonds were registered. Energy flares marked each union. Applause followed. Sarilith remained still. Some glanced at her and then quickly looked away. Others whispered. A few watched her with open fascination, but their feet never moved in her direction. She wondered, not for the first time, if immortality was simply a longer way to feel alone. Near the far entrance of the hall, a much smaller delegation arrived late. Their ship was plain by galactic standards, functional, compact, human-made. Humans were still new to these gatherings. They had spread quickly through exploration, but they lacked ancient empires or legendary powers. What they had instead was adaptability, cooperation, and an unsettling calm when facing the unknown. Elias Rowan walked beside the human ambassador, wearing a simple dark uniform with no weapons visible. He was not a noble, nor a famous warrior. He was an envoy aide, chosen for his ability to observe and communicate. As he entered the hall, the scale of the Convergence hit him fully. Colors beyond Earth's spectrum, beings that challenged every idea of biology. He felt small but not afraid. He watched as pairs formed. He listened to translations of bonding oaths. He noticed patterns others missed. Then he noticed the silence around one figure. High above, seated alone, was a being unlike any other in the hall. Darkness seemed to curve toward her, not violently but naturally like gravity. Her red eyes were calm, ancient, and deeply tired. Elias felt a strange pull, not of hunger or danger but recognition. "Who is that?" he asked quietly. The ambassador stiffened. "Do not stare, that is Queen Sarilith, Verathi ruler." "The vampire species?" Elias asked. "Yes. Powerful, dangerous, best left alone." Elias did not reply. He continued to watch. He noticed how others avoided her platform, how announcements skipped over her name, how time passed without change. He felt something twist in his chest. When the final bonding announcement echoed and the hall began to thin, Sarilith remained seated. Tradition allowed her to leave now. No shame would be spoken aloud. Still, she did not move. Elias watched other delegations depart in pairs. Laughter, new bonds, futures decided. The queen was still alone. He felt a sudden clarity. Fear had guided the galaxy for too long. Humanity had learned painfully that fear did not protect you. It only made you smaller. He stepped away from his delegation. "Elias," the ambassador whispered sharply, "where are you going?" "I need to do something," Elias said. "Trust me." Before anyone could stop him, he crossed the hall. The sound of his footsteps echoed more than they should have. Heads turned, murmurs rose. Sarilith noticed him instantly. Of course she did. Humans were rare here, and this one was walking toward her without hesitation. Her guards tensed, shadows shifting at the edge of the platform. She raised a single finger. They froze. The human stopped a few steps below her throne. He did not kneel. He did not bow deeply. He placed a hand over his chest, a simple human gesture of respect. "My name is Elias Rowan," he said, voice steady. "I come from Earth." The hall was completely silent. Sarilith studied him. She sensed no weapon, no deception, no hunger for power. His life force was bright, short-lived, but fiercely contained. "Why are you here, human?" she asked. Her voice was smooth, layered with subtle harmonics that resonated through the space. "Because," Elias said, choosing his words carefully, "everyone deserves to be chosen without fear." A ripple of shock spread through the hall. Sarilith's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, in surprise. "You know who I am," she said. "Yes." "You know what my kind is said to be." "Yes." "And yet you stand there." Elias nodded. "Stories say many things. I prefer truth." Slowly, carefully, he raised his hand, not as a challenge, not as a demand, but an invitation. Gasps echoed. Some delegates shouted warnings. Security fields flickered. Sarilith looked at his hand. No one had offered her this in centuries. She reached out with senses honed by ages. She felt his intent, bare and unguarded. No desire to control, no desire to be saved. Only respect and a quiet willingness to stand beside something feared. Her fingers hovered inches from his. In that moment she felt something unfamiliar. Hope. She placed her hand in his. The convergent systems reacted instantly. Ancient protocols flared to life. The hall lit with deep crimson and soft blue energy, colors intertwining rather than clashing. Bond initiation detected, an automated voice announced. The uproar was immediate. "This is madness. A human cannot. The Verathi bond is irreversible." Sarilith rose from her throne, still holding Elias' hand. Her presence expanded, commanding silence. "The choice was offered," she said. "The choice was accepted. By law older than this hall, the bond stands." She looked down at Elias. "You understand this cannot be undone," she said quietly. He met her gaze without flinching. "I understand." For the first time in longer than she could remember, Sarilith smiled, not with fangs but with warmth. Around them, the galaxy struggled to understand what it had just witnessed. And somewhere deep within the shadowed history of the Verathi, something ancient shifted. Not hunger, not darkness, but the beginning of something new. The news of the bond spread faster than any ship could travel. Before the grand convergence even fully ended, data streams across the galaxy lit up with the same impossible report. A human had bonded with the alien vampire queen. In council chambers, leaders shouted. In hidden corners of space, enemies smiled. On neutral worlds, common beings argued in crowded streets and digital forums. Some called it bravery, others called it stupidity. Many called it an insult to ancient order. Queen Seralith and Elias Rowan did not stay to hear most of it. By ancient law, once a bond was accepted, the bonded pair had the right to immediate withdrawal to the Queen's domain for confirmation rites. The Verathi ship departed the Convergence under heavy watch. Escorts followed at a distance, weapons hot but unused. Inside the ship, silence filled the long corridors. Elias walked beside Seralith, still feeling the echo of energy from the bond. He felt no pain, no weakness. Instead, there was a strange warmth at the center of his chest, like standing near a fire on a cold night. Seralith noticed his steady pace. "You are not afraid now," she said softly. "I was afraid before," Elias replied honestly. "Now I just feel certain." She studied him for a long moment. "Certainty is rare among my people. It usually dies early." They entered a chamber filled with dim, shifting light. The walls responded to Seralith's presence, dark patterns moving like slow waves. This was her private council room. "You must understand what you have done," she said. "The bond ties your fate to mine. My enemies may target you. My allies may resent you." "I understand," Elias said. "Humans live with short lives. That makes our choices louder." That answer stayed with her longer than she expected. When they arrived in Verathi space, the stars themselves seemed dimmer. Their capital world, Noctira, orbited a dying red sun. Vast cities stretched across the surface, built low and wide, designed to absorb weak light and conserve energy. As the Queen's ship descended, alarms echoed across the city. Crowds gathered, watching massive screens. They expected to see their queen alone, as she always returned from the Convergence. Instead, she emerged with a human at her side. Shock rippled through her people. The Verathi were disciplined, but emotion ran deep beneath their controlled exterior. Guards knelt immediately. Citizens bowed, but whispers moved like shadows. A human. Inside the royal citadel, the High Council convened at once. Elders with centuries of experience stared at Elias as if he were a fragile object placed too close to fire. "This bond threatens our stability," one elder said. "Humans are weak, their lives flicker like sparks." Elias did not speak. Seralith did. "Strength is not measured by lifespan alone," she said calmly. "If it were, we would already rule the galaxy." Another elder leaned forward. "And if this human is harmed, our queen will be bound to his pain. This is unacceptable risk." Seralith's eyes hardened. "The risk is mine to bear." By law, the council could not overrule her choice. Still, tension filled the chamber. While political pressure grew, something else began to happen quietly. Elias started learning. He listened to Verathi historians explain their true nature. They fed on excess bioenergy released naturally by living systems, preventing dangerous buildup that could destabilize planets. They were caretakers, not predators. Their reputation had been twisted by fear and old wars. In return, Elias shared human history, short lives, endless conflict, mistakes repeated until learned the hard way. Yet somehow, humans kept choosing cooperation again and again. Seralith watched him interact with her people. He asked questions instead of giving orders. He admitted ignorance without shame. He laughed easily. Some guards relaxed around him. Some scholars grew curious. Some children stared openly, then waved. Still, not everyone waited. Beyond Verathi space, a hostile alliance saw opportunity. The Queen's bond was weakness made visible. They launched a coordinated strike toward Noctira, masking it as a border dispute. Warning sirens screamed across the planet. Fleet commanders rushed to defensive positions. Seralith stood at the war table, eyes burning with focus. Elias stood beside her, listening. "Our enemies expect us to react as we always do," Elias said quietly. "Direct confrontation, fear." Seralith looked at him. And you suggest, "Humans don't always win by strength," he said. "We win by confusion." They deployed decoy fleets, altered energy signatures, and broadcast false retreat signals. When enemy forces advanced, they found empty space, while Verathi's shadow ships cut supply lines instead of attacking head-on. Elia's coordinated communication between fractured allies who distrusted the Verathi. He spoke plainly, promised transparency, offered shared command structures. Reluctantly, the allies listened. When the enemy finally realized the trap, it was too late. Their fleets were isolated, low on power, and surrounded by forces they had underestimated. The battle ended without planetary damage. Across Noctira, something changed. The people saw their queen standing unbroken. They saw the human beside her, not hiding, not commanding, but working. Fear began to loosen its grip. That night, Sarilith stood on a balcony overlooking the dim city lights. Elias joined her. "They will still fear us," she said. "Maybe," Elias replied. "But fear doesn't last forever, especially when it's challenged." She looked at him, ancient eyes reflecting weak starlight. "For centuries I believed solitude was the price of rule," she said. "Now the galaxy is angry that I chose otherwise." Elias smiled softly. "Sounds like a good sign." In the distance, Verathi ships patrolled peacefully. The bond between shadow and humanity held firm. And the galaxy had only begun to react. The galaxy did not calm after the failed attack on Noctira. Instead, it grew more restless. Fear rarely disappears when proven wrong. It changes shape. Across star systems, powerful factions began to speak carefully chosen words. They did not call Queen Sarilith weak anymore. They called her dangerous, not because of her strength, but because of her bond with a human. Humans were unpredictable. Humans changed things. A special emergency council was called on a neutral world, one where ancient laws prevented open violence. Invitations were sent to every major power. Refusing to attend would be seen as an admission of guilt or fear. Queen Sarilith received the message while reviewing fleet reports. Elias stood nearby, reading data streams faster than most of her advisors could follow. "They want to judge us," Sarilith said calmly. "They want to control the story," Elias replied. "Judgment is just a tool." The council demanded that the bonded pair appear together. Many Verathi advisors objected. The risk was too high. Political traps were more dangerous than open war. Sarilith made her decision quickly. "We will go." Noctira watched their queen depart once more, but this time she did not leave alone in silence. Crowds gathered. No bows, no fear-filled whispers. They watched with quiet pride. The council chamber was massive, built in a hollowed asteroid reinforced with ancient alloys. Gravity shifted slightly between sections to accommodate different species. Translation fields hummed constantly. When Sarilith and Elias entered together, the noise did not rise. It fell. Hundreds of eyes fixed on them, some with anger, some with curiosity, some with something close to hope. The lead counselor, an ancient being of light and sound, began the proceedings. "Queen Sarilith of the Verathi," it intoned, "you stand accused of destabilizing galactic balance by forming an unprecedented bond." Sarilith did not react. "Balance that depends on fear was never stable," murmurs rippled. Another representative spoke sharply. "Your bond makes you vulnerable. Enemies may exploit your human partner." Elias stepped forward slightly. "Then target me," he said simply. Laughter echoed from some sections. "A human challenges us," one delegate sneered. Elias did not raise his voice. "No, I'm reminding you, you already target humans. We still stand." That silenced the laughter. The council shifted focus. They presented scenarios, risks, historical examples. Every argument came down to the same thing. Humans should not stand beside ancient powers. Finally, the council announced a trial, not of violence, but of proof. An ancient threat had resurfaced at the edge of known space, a void entity that fed on energy itself. It could not be harmed by conventional weapons. Entire systems had gone dark centuries ago because of it. The Council issued their decision. If the bonded pair can stop the entity together, the Council declared, then the bond will be recognized as beneficial. If not, humanity will be restricted from future sovereign bonds. It was not a fair test. It was a message. Sarilith accepted without hesitation. The journey to the affected system was long. The void around the dying stars felt heavy, wrong. Sensors malfunctioned. Energy readings vanished into nothing. The entity revealed itself slowly. A massive distortion in space, like a tear that swallowed light and sound. Verathi weapons passed through it uselessly. Human technology failed to lock on. Fleet commanders waited for orders. Sarilith reached for her shadow powers, ancient and vast. The entity absorbed them. For the first time since her ascension, she felt doubt. Elias watched quietly. "May I try something?" he asked. Sarilith turned to him. "This thing consumes energy. It will notice you." Elias nodded. "That's the point." He ordered all ships to power down weapons. Total silence. Confusion spread across the fleet. "Humans learned something early," Elias said over open channels. "Some problems get worse when you fight them the same way." He ordered a slow advance, not with power but with communication arrays. Instead of energy, they projected patterns, memories, music, recorded human voices speaking of loss, hope, defiance. The entity reacted. It hesitated. It had never encountered resistance without energy. Sarilith understood then. She reached out again, but not with force. She shared her memories, centuries of guarding borders, standing alone, protecting those who feared her. The entity slowed further. Together they did something no fleet had tried. They did not destroy it. They guided it. Using coordinated human logic and Verathi shadow control, they redirected the entity toward a dead region of space with no stars, no life, no energy to consume. It drifted away, confused, harmless. The threat ended without a single shot fired. Silence filled the bridge, then cheers. When they returned to the council world, the atmosphere had changed. No accusations, no mockery, only attention. The lead counselor spoke again. "The trial is complete," it said. "The bond stands." More than that, something deeper shifted. Reports flooded in. Other species began reassessing humans, not as fragile beings, but as partners who changed the rules of survival. Queen Sarilith and Elias returned to Noctira one final time. This time, the city lights burned brighter than ever before. Sarilith stood before her people, Elias beside her, and spoke openly. "We were feared," she said. "Then we were ignored. Today we are understood." She turned slightly toward Elias. "Not because I changed," she continued, "but because I was finally seen." Elias felt the bond warm again, steady and strong. In the weeks that followed, human envoys were welcomed across Verathi space. Joint academies formed. Mixed crews trained together. Fear slowly lost its power. The alien vampire queen was no longer the one left behind. She was the one who proved that even ancient darkness could choose connection. And humanity became something rare in the galaxy. Not conquerors, not saviors, but the species that reached out when everyone else stepped away and changed the future by doing so.